This episode of our podcast is brought to you by Dulaban Insurance. If you live in Ontario, Canada, and are looking for the best price and coverage for your Tesla, give Dulaban a call at 1-855-385-4226 or visit their website at dulabaninsurance.com/Tesla. Well, everyone, welcome again to another podcast. I am your host, Trevor Page. I'm joined by Ian Pavelko and Eric Camacho. How you doing, guys?
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Healthy as can be. How's everyone doing?
Very good. If you're joining us for the first time, thank you very much. I know that sometimes giving us a lot of your time is kind of a precious thing, but given that we're on lockdown, I would expect that hopefully that you would have a little bit of time to give us anyways. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Tesla's Q1 financials because we just got off the earnings call, so we thought we would spend a little time and talk about what's going on. Before we begin, I want to put out a little bit of a public service announcement. First of all, we are not financial experts. So if we say anything that's financial related and you think that it might be yay or nay as far as buying Tesla stock, don't listen to us because we're not experts. We're just opining.
Yes, we don't even play one on TV.
Exactly. So yeah, don't take our word as gospel. And then considering some stuff that's also happened during the call and the last couple of days on Twitter regarding Elon Musk, there's a discussion later on that might happen. Might get into a little bit of the weeds and stuff. Hopefully it doesn't get too political. So please don't be upset. Everybody has different opinions about different things. So just because somebody differs in your opinion doesn't mean that you have to unsubscribe or go on Twitter and shame somebody and stuff. So anyways, I just want to put that out there. All right. So financial numbers are out. I'm going to read some important stuff that they put out in their investor letter, and later on we'll have a discussion about some of the questions that came on, because obviously they do take questions during these financial calls, and there's some interesting information that came out. So first of all, Tesla says that Q1 of 2020 is the best first quarter they've ever had in their history. They had a $1.8 billion increase in cash on hand and cash equivalents. So they currently have a total of $8.1 billion. So they have plenty of money in the bank. Excuse me. Operating cash flow less capital expenditures, which is their free cash flow, is negative $895 million in Q1, of which $981 million outflow due to inventory growth. On the profitability side, they are GAAP profitable, so $283 million GAAP operating income, $16 million GAAP net income, $227 million non-GAAP income. Gross margin at Giga Shanghai is approaching level of US-made Model 3s, and Model Y gross margin is actually positive in Q1. I think that last bit about Model Y is very important because it really shows that Tesla's maturing, and they've learned a lot from the Model 3 ramp in what not to do, what to do and what not to do in order to get that. Because if you remember, if you go back and you look, basically 3 years ago when the Model 3 ramp started, it was very painful for them. It took them a long time to get profitable on those cars because they had to pay off a lot of stuff. There was a lot of complexities. So they've taken a lot of those learnings and fixed them up. So it's all good. So Tesla goes on to say Q1 2020 was the first time in our history we achieved a positive GAAP net income in the seasonably first quarter of the year, which is always slow for everybody. Ford literally just announced they had a $2 billion loss this quarter, and it's not looking good for Q2 for them either. So it's good that Tesla's actually profitable. They go on to say that despite global operational challenges, we were able to achieve our best first quarter for both production and deliveries. We saw those with the numbers, so finally we got the financial numbers that came out on that. So they also go on to say, although impacted by inefficiencies related to the temporary suspension of production deliveries in many locations, including Fremont, which is shut down right now, our gross margin remained strong. At the Gigafactory in Shanghai, further volume growth resulted in a material improvement in margins of locally made Model 3 vehicles. In addition, Model Y contributed profits, which is the first time in our history that a new product has been profitable in this quarter. I'll link to the investor letter that you guys can read. There is something that caught my eye down here, and I just wanted to go down and we'll just talk about it real quick. I think it's on page 21. There's some wonderful pictures in here, by the way.
There are.
Yeah. Let's just say here, it was under page 21 right here, liabilities and equity. So just an interesting number here. Deferred revenue. If you look at a quarter, the first quarter of 2019, they had $763 million in deferred revenue. Now, deferred revenue is the holding place that Tesla puts the FSD, unrealized FSD profits. There's probably some other stuff in there too. Anyways, So here we are, a quarter, 1 year later. So the first quarter of 2020, 1.186 billion. So almost double in terms of deferred revenue from FSD. Like I said, I can't say exactly that all of it is FSD, but I think it really points to there's a lot of people that actually jumped on the FSD bandwagon, and how much of that they can actually count towards revenue now is not really declared, as far as I can tell in here, specifically because last week they released the new Navigate on Autopilot, or the streetlight detection, at least in the US. So anyways, as Tesla releases new features, they can actually start pulling from some of that. So interesting. Anyways, discussion. Let's talk about this. So it's good to see that they're profitable, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, I know some of the takeaways I got from the call early on. Elon mentioned that the Model S is testing at 400 miles of range, which I thought was really, really cool. I know that there was the discussion of the EPA test, that the vehicle that they used for testing, there was some manner in which they're testing it overnight.
The door open.
there was a range loss of about 2%. So that affected the final number. But I think it's really impressive when you think about when the Model 3 long range first came out. You're looking at 310, 315, 320 after some software updates of a potential 100% charge range. And now you're looking at a state of charge of about 400 miles in a Model S without really much significant change, right? We know there's going to be some changes in the vehicle, but nothing substantial. You're looking at now 400. That's really great. I mean, even though you're never going to hit 400, you're not going to drive at 400, you're not going to go from 400 to 0. But that does mean for a lot of people, just thinking about how not long ago we had electric vehicles that couldn't crack 100. And now we're pumping out a car with 400. So that's pretty cool. The other major takeaway I got from all of the figures was just how much they learned with Model 3. You mentioned before in part of the discussion about the body panels that there's the part of the car, the Model 3 has at one point 70 fused pieces of metal for part of the chassis, where the Model Y in that same section of the Model 3 has only 2. And the goal is to get it down to 1. So the fact that they've made that advancement in the body design in a very short time frame, if you think about it, I mean, from when Model Y was first conceptualized to put into the prototypes, that's very impressive. Just the idea they can actually have one cast and there it is. There's the I guess they're building from there. It's really, really cool. So those are the two major takeaways I got from his initial comments.
If anyone is joining and they haven't been paying attention, Sandy Monroe over to Monroe & Associates has a YouTube channel, and they have been stripping the Model Y that they purchased down to the bare bones, so you get a pretty good idea of how the thing is actually constructed. And if you listen to Sandy, because he's been quite vocal in the past about his Model 3 that they bought, and now they got a very early production Model 3, so of course there's been a lot of advancements in that car since they purchased it, so now he's looking at efficiencies, and of course he's going in blind here because he hasn't looked at a Model 3 since the first one that he bought, so he's noticing a lot of stuff in the Model Y, and we're kind of scratching our heads and going, yeah, we already knew about that, but to him it's all new, right? But I think it really points to the fact that Tesla's taken a lot of learnings from building the Model 3, and they're making a lot of efficiencies, and it's showing up in the Model Y, and it's not going to stop. We're going to see even more in future cars as they go, so they're not sitting still. So it just shows that Tesla's certainly maturing in a lot of ways, and they're being innovative in a lot of different ways. So anyways, if you guys haven't seen that, definitely go and watch his channel. He has something like 20 episodes already. I just watched the one today, and he finally got it down to the body in white. So there's some interesting stuff in there. As far as the Model S is concerned, I think Elon basically said on the call that the Model S already achieves 400 miles. They just need the EPA to retest it again so they can officially declare that. So, when Elon said very shortly we're going to have a 400-mile car, well, here it is. It's already here. So, and right. So I guess that kind of leads us into the next segue, because there were questions on the call about Battery Day. When is that happening? So he hemmed and hawed a little bit, because he did say previously that they were hoping to target sometime in mid-May. Looks like they're shooting for the third week of May, possibly. And he did say that it was either going to happen in California or Texas. So I don't know. I mean, he made some other comments about gigafactories a little bit later and stuff, but I don't know. I just have a feeling here that we're looking. Something's going to happen in Texas, and something's going to give. So.
I don't know. I saw a lot of comments on Twitter. It's like, oh, is he leaking something? Does that mean there's going to be a gigafactory in Texas? I didn't read it that way at all. I thought it's like he just, he's so enamored of the fact that Texas is opening back up again, and this kind of falls back to his freedom cries from earlier today. And I just think if he doesn't, he's not able to put together the event that he wants necessarily in California, he's just going to move the whole event to Texas. That's how I read it. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there was a little leak about a factory in there. I don't know.
So would he hold it at the Boca Chica factory where they're building rockets, or somewhere else, tie it in with an announcement?
Boca Chica would be fun. I don't know if it's really the right venue to host.
Well, let's put it this way. I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but he did say that they're hoping to announce another Gigafactory within about a month. My comments were like 3 months, maybe 6 months, definitely. So I think if you read between the lines, that comment plus the battery thing, I think he wants to probably do both at the same time. And he wants to announce something like, here's the next Gigafactory. It's going to be, let's call it Texas right now, because that seems to be the front runner. And by the way, let's talk about batteries at the same time.
Am I crazy? What's the one that they were talking about in the Midwest? Wasn't it Missouri or?
Well, no, Missouri basically had approached Tesla and says, we're going to give you all this land. Here's a bunch of incentives. So they're just putting their flag up. But I mean, we know that Austin, for example, has been in the running for quite some time, and Elon seems to favor that. But Elon's a smart guy. I mean, he wants to build whoever gives him the best deal.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Right? And we talked about this in the past before. When they built the first Gigafactory, you had to put it out to a competition. And now all these states are falling over themselves trying to offer him.
It reminds me of what happened with Amazon and their HQ2. Yeah. That sort of thing. I don't want to make comparisons that they're affirmatively the exact same thing, but the behavior, there are inclinations, there are hints, suggestions that they are sort of behaving the same way. I don't want people to fawn over the idea that it's going to come to their state for sure, one way or the other. We know there's always deals. We know there's conversations. We know that some states may have better incentive than others, tax breaks, job guarantees, the like. Ideally, I would look at it as just economically what's best for the workers and for the company and for the state. So there's a lot of kind of moving parts here. Texas makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. A lot of it is because of the size of the state, the real estate, the economy that they have there. But I know that other states are going to be just as amenable and just as flexible as they need to be as well. So while size matters, we know that they have. Hi, Beverly. We know that there are gigafactories in larger areas. China, California, now going to have in Germany. So it would not surprise me if they decide to go with a smaller state for one reason or another. But yeah, it's sort of reeks of the Amazon stuff in the early stages. I hope it doesn't go down that or down that path, just because it seems precarious on the surface.
I don't know, man. I'm still putting my money on Texas. That's just me. That's just me. Let's talk about the Gigafactory situation anyways. I know we're kind of going out of order here, but I guess it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So they definitely said that the next Gigafactory for the U.S. Cybertruck and future vehicles will be announced as soon as next month. Again, if timing works out well. Again, present situation, could throw a wrench into things. He did say that they were planning. I mean, if you listen to Tesla's earning calls in the past, they said that, well, we see a potential for hundreds of gigafactories. Obviously, don't think that's really going to happen. They seem to be backing off on that. They said that they plan on doing less gigafactories going forward, but they would just end up being bigger. They threw the term terafactory around. I know, Ian, you had commented on Twitter. You like the sound of that, right?
It sounds like this giant object in low Earth orbit. It's just kind of like this planetoid.
It's like how many bytes?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. They want to build factories that'll do multiple cars, not just one. We know they have to build something for the Cybertruck. We know they have to do something for Roadster and Semi, although those are lower volume vehicles anyway. But to put it all under one roof, I'm going to throw I'm going to throw this out. I think the next factory, like I said, my feeling is it's going to be Texas, and it'll be Cybertruck, Roadster, and Semi. That's just my personal feeling. Semi may begin production maybe somewhere else, sort of short term until till they get things rolling. But the other two cars are really 2021 cars, Roadster and Cybertruck. So they really need a bigger facility. I mean, they can't do anything at Fremont anymore. They're completely full. and how much optimization they were able to do during the shutdown for Model Y is unknown at this point, although they did say that they're still planning on increasing capacity and so on and so forth, given, kind of the limitations that they have. So,
do you think at the Terrafactory, if we're looking at those 3 specific vehicles, that they could also do solar and battery production there too? If we're thinking long term as a Terrafactory,
cell production, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Solar seems to be Gigafactory in Buffalo right now.
Okay.
Again, it's kind of segueing into another comment that they made, that the solar roof manufacturing has demonstrated being able to ramp up to 1,000 roofs per week in the U.S., but they went on to say that installation right now is the challenge. They just don't have enough people. They don't have enough processes right now, so it's still ramping up. Beside myself, does anybody have a reservation or an interest in a solar roof? Not necessarily roof, but maybe panels.
Not currently, I don't, but I'm sure my next house, I would probably want to do it.
I do have a reservation for both, although the roof, I'm talking about the solar tiles themselves, would be just prohibitively expensive for me, given the longevity that I'm going to be in this house. But panels definitely interest me. So, but I'm not in the U.S., so who knows when they're going to come out. I mean, they did mention on the call again that their plan is to go international, but again, no timeline was given, so that kind of made me a bit sad. I was hoping to get some more information on that. All right, let's talk about FSD. Someone had asked about the subscription service because a few days ago it was all over the internet. Our good friend Green the Only on Twitter had revealed that there's definitely code in the current software out there that indicates that there is a subscription service in play. It just hasn't been activated yet. Now, this is not really news or that kind of groundbreaking, because Elon did say that they were going to do a subscription service. So now he's reiterated that they're hoping to be able to do a subscription service maybe towards the end of this year, all things being equal. They are definitely making advances now, especially with the stop sign and the stoplight detection in FSD, that we're getting closer and closer and closer to this mostly navigate on autopilot on city streets. That's the big one, right? Mm-hmm. I think the next one will be intersection. Once the car can handle driving and handling actual intersections and being able to turn, at that point we're like, it's still 90% of the work's still to go, right? Because they always say, that last 20% is 80% of the work, or whatever the case may be. So we're certainly getting there, but I think he definitely made a point saying again that economics favor buying it right now, because obviously you can roll it into a lease or a purchase of a car. Again, I don't think anybody needs to go into this thinking that a subscription service is going to be any cheaper than you buying it outright. It just means that you're just going to pay for it on a monthly basis, whatever the case may be. But it's not going to cost you $5,000 instead of $7,000, right? So just keep that in mind. If you
quite the opposite, they were clear to make it, over the life of the car, you're better off buying it up front. Yeah. So.
Well, it's a moneymaker for them right now. A subscription service is, it is what it is. So, anyways, they seem to still think that they're hoping to do the robotaxi thing by the end. What was it? The end of next year? Did I hear that wrong?
Yeah, that's what they were shooting for.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought it was this. Yeah, I wasn't too sure. I couldn't remember if it was the end of this year or next year. But anyways, they seem to be still tracking towards that. So we'll see. Someone had asked them about the price in China for Model 3s, given that the car is priced too high for them to qualify for the current subsidies in China. And they basically announced on the call that, yes, they will be reducing the cost of the Model 3 from manufacturing savings that they've been able to do. So I think the standard range Model 3 is the one that they're going to be lowering the price on, so that car will qualify for the Chinese subsidies. So that should hopefully boost some sales for those. By the way, they did open the configurator to the Performance Model 3 in China, because up until recently they haven't been able to order for those. So the Gigafactory in China now is making the Performance Model 3 for that market segment. Let's see here. Sorry, I lost my spot.
You lost your spot.
I lost my
We've
spot.
Been jumping all over the list here.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. We had things.
Did you want to get into the HVAC?
Yeah. If you've been following Elon on Twitter, someone had asked him about the HVAC thing, because he had said in the past that a lot of this was born because of the advancements they'd done with the heat pump in the Model Y. And he did go on Twitter and say, well, I've been thinking about doing something in the HVAC space for homes, the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. based on some advancements that they've done in the S and the X previously, because they have HEPA filters in them and the heat pump. So he said that they definitely want to do something along those lines, so that it would be an advanced HVAC system for the home market, including HEPA filters and the ability to generate potable water, and for and the possibility of also having a water heater built in as well. So, in the interest of the advent of sustainable energy, it actually makes sense if you think about that. There's so many different ways you can think about markets that Tesla could get into. The home HVAC system is ripe for disruption because we've been running the same stuff for so long. So if they can do something interesting in that space, I think it would be very interesting on that aspect. But again, he kind of said that, well, it's something I'd like to do, but we just have too many projects underway.
He said towards the end, our brains are full. Yeah. I think that's what I understood, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. People get on Twitter and they always ask Elon, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? You know what? They're all great ideas. People have so many great ideas, but Tesla's limited. They only have so many resources. I mean,
no kidding.
They've got so many cars that they're working on right now, and who knows what else. It's just like they're not GM or Ford that can just throw 1,000 engineers on some kind of new project. They just don't have that kind of resources to throw. I mean, I'm sure they'll get there eventually, but for now, it's just like, man, there's only so many things. I mean, he said something about a leaf blower.
Yeah.
Remember when he said the leaf blower? Oh, yeah, Tesla's going to make a leaf blower. All right. Haven't heard anything about that.
I mean, when you think about even something as simple as Joe mode, and folks were saying, hey, what about a baby mode? Something that even has less sounds, fewer sounds, quieter sounds. You would think it's a matter of just in the back end of the code, change of value of the volume setting, and that should be it. But it appears to be more complicated than that, because if it was that simple, it'd be a patch already. Yeah. To your point, let's say they have, let's say there's 200 engineers at any given time working on code for the software. If all of a sudden Elon or some other executive comes into a team meeting or comes into a workshop and says, okay, we've got these 7 really awesome suggestions we want to be able to put out for a software update in 6 months. And, they start working on them. But that's on top of whatever work they're already doing that's due for the next update. So I would imagine that it's a very strenuous, exhaustive task that they're always asked to do. And, maybe an engineer has his allotment of projects to work on, and then when he kind of goes through them, new ones come in or whatever it is. Again, we're just certainly speculating here, but it is interesting when there's the millions of Tesla followers on Twitter. There's the countless number of owners, a lot of whom are suggesting ideas like you've presented. Some of those do catch Elon's attention. A very small percentage do. And when they do, it's like, aha, now that's the thing. And then everyone's, piggybacks on that. Like, well, hey, since you saw that, how about this? And I'm sure it's hard. I'm sure it's like throwing, it'd be like throwing a dart at the Earth from space, hoping you know exactly where to hit your house. Like it's that difficult to get Elon's attention, but when you do, it's hard. But again, when him saying yes, for example, which oftentimes is a simple yes, it's hard to gauge when that happens, right? We know he's agreed to do it, and then many people will follow up with him. Hey, Elon, it's been a year. Is there an update for this? Like it's a hard thing. They're working hard on the call.
He did say on the call, I may not be very punctual, but I do deliver. Yeah. Which is true.
That's true.
And for all we know, there could be updates that people have suggested that the team at Tesla have already thought about, and they're looking at, version 11, version 12, version 13, like things that whatever their pipeline is set up to be. Maybe they say, okay, we're gonna move this up to this release, from this other one. We're gonna move it up a few weeks because obviously there's a demand for it, whatever that might be. So it's, I'm sure it'd be interesting to find out if someone ever did kind of reveal sort of what that schedule is like from the coding side. Maybe it's some other future investors day or what have you. But yeah, I think that's one of the most underrated components of that company is just how hard that team is working to get these code advancements put in.
Well, just imagine how far ahead they are. I mean, Volkswagen just came out and said, the head of Volkswagen said internally, he says, boy, the Tesla software stuff really gives me headaches. because they're so far ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, we've mentioned
then,
before, they're a tech company, and they're far and away leading other manufacturers in that vein.
Well, the thing is that we take the software for granted. I mean, we as owners, I mean, it's like Christmas every other week, when you get a new software update, and we're all jumping all over each other trying to, post on Twitter or social media or YouTube or whatever about our thoughts about the latest software. And of course, we're pretty vocal whenever we find a bug too. I mean, this latest update where you can drive around and it shows the stoplights and stuff. It's very clear in the release notes of how to use it. But people are so giddy about getting this new software update and testing it. They mash that close button. They don't read the instructions, and they go out and they go, "Why is it stopping at green lights?" Right? And it's all, I'm like, "Oh God, guys, you're just giving more fodder for the Tesla Q guys. Like, stop."
Yep. And God knows after today's financial call, the Tesla Q people are going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel for anything they can find.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine why they do that today.
No way.
Yeah,
I wonder.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder whose fund probably went bankrupt today because of this whole thing. Gosh.
Well, the aftermarket numbers were insane.
Yeah. All right, so we only have one more thing on the list here that we thought was kind of important. He did mention, or when I say he, I'm talking about Elon, of course, did mention that the stationary storage part of their business is still very high demand, but it's beyond what they can supply in 2020. So they're still backordered on a lot of that stuff, the power pack projects. So anyways, I think on the energy side of the business, it's still very much an untapped business. It's just capacity right now. It's just being stripped because Model 3, now Model Y is online. So stands to reason they need to ramp up Gigafactory 1, or no, Gigafactory 1. I've got to keep them straight now, right? So, no, Gigafactory Reno or Nevada. Okay, that's the one. And then whatever second one they build that's going to do a battery factory or stuff. Of course, and then we're waiting on Berlin, which we're hoping to see the groundbreaking any moment now. The ground clearing is finished. They're just waiting for the official groundbreaking. I did see a picture, and unfortunately I don't have it here for you guys, but I saw a picture online that showed a rough outline of how things are going to be laid out. And they definitely show cell manufacturing on site. And it looks like the factory's huge, by the way. It's massive.
Yeah.
It shows a 4-quadrant system all laid out identically. So it looks like they're going to be able to do what appears to me, and I can't verify this, but they're going to be built 4 different, they have 4 different production lines inside the factory. So Y and 3, and then who knows what else they're going to build there. So I think the one in Berlin is going to be really big. I think it's going to be the first one that will have capacity for 4 product lines in there.
It might not surprise me if they're going to also build the sexy fleet there. Because if you could at least alleviate the demand from Fremont to deliver overseas in Europe and Asia, then why not? Especially if you're going to have a new version of a Model S and X coming out in the next year or so.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed from it, though, is that a production line, just at least in my knowledge anyways, wants to be built to accommodate the scale that you expect. And this diagram showed all 4 of them being equal. So the S and X right now are not, I mean, they're not producing quite as many, and certainly less are going to Europe than they are in North America. So I don't know, would you make those production lines the same size if, I mean, maybe they could combine, because they did say that they're sharing some of the capacity on the Model 3 line for the Model Y, which we kind of speculated they would probably do to a certain extent. Usually general assembly, not body and white. That's a different thing completely.
Pairing those two makes sense because there's so much similarity in construction, but I don't think there's any way, to your point, Trev, that you could share an S and an X with a Y or a 3 line. That doesn't make any sense.
No, of course not. No.
So
they're shared in Fremont, but
being that the volume of those cars is so low, I have a funny feeling they're just going to keep shipping them out of Fremont. And the Roadster as well is such a niche product. I have a feeling that would for the one spot. But yeah, I got a funny feeling they just want to crank up the capacity for the Y and the 3 to make sure that they meet, the demand for that whole part of the world, at least initially.
Yeah.
Not the ATV?
Well, of course. How can I forget that? There's probably some little subsection of that factory just for the ATV. Has to be.
Well, the ATV they built that they showed on stage was actually a Yamaha that was just converted. So I don't know. Are they going to buy a chassis for somebody else and just convert it? Like do the Roadster thing all over again? I don't know.
We shall see. One last thing I just thought was cool on the technology side. I don't know if you guys caught it, but they slipped in there what the filter rating was for the Model 3 and Model Y, you know, like, because we sort of got onto that discussion, right, with the HVAC stuff for home, whatever,
right.
you know, with all the knowledge that they've got from doing the filter system in the S and the X, which are so incredible. And this stat just blew my mind. Apparently, the filters that we currently have in Model 3 and Model Y are rated MERV 18. So if you're familiar with the MERV chart, the minimum efficiency report value for like your home furnace filters and whatever, like good ones tend to be around 10 or 12, you know, which will get rid of 75, 80% of dust particles, whatever. The Model 3 filter is MERV 18. That's beyond like hospital stuff. Like just I got the MERV chart up here. I got to read this stuff off because it just blew my mind. Like if you get to MERV 15, that will eliminate all bacteria. Not some, all bacteria particles disappear at 15. And we have a MERV 18.
What about all the people who had Model 3s for a year and then it ended up stinking up the HVAC system because they had mold growth in there?
Yeah, well, that's a different thing.
Has that been cured?
Obviously, if it's trapping moisture somewhere, that's going to be prone to, you know, like the mold is maybe the problem is it could be accumulating on the supply side of the system. That we don't know. But the fact that it actually traps all bacteria, all combustion smoke, it MERV 17, you capture that. Even hospital general surgery rooms only use MERV 16. So these are some pretty serious filters we have. I mean, think about it. If you're driving like through, you know, every year now in California, we're seeing these horrific scenes of fire and whatever. You're driving through there in your Model 3. None of the smoke particles are getting into your vehicle.
I have no complaints about the filter in the car.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's pretty damn good for a standard filter.
Yeah. Well, it just shows they care about that stuff.
They do. I mean,
they don't advertise it, but they care.
No, I mean, I would have been blasting that all over the place. That's like Elon said, it's higher than any standard filter in any car in production currently. So
the intriguing thing is there are times where I've been driving here in South Florida, and there's certain areas of the communities I drive through where you can pick up odors in the car. So like particulate matter, some of the small particulates are part of what's being filtered out, but some odors do get through. So it makes me wonder if odors can get into the car, what other things might it not be picking up? So it's interesting the numbers are reading, because my experience with my car, and again, mine could be older, so maybe current production models are different than mine from 2018. So I want to at least have that disclaimer. But I can tell you that, like I said, some smells get in. So that makes me think that the filter is not, at least I suspect based on your description of the levels you just read out, that mine's not pulling 18. It might be doing a little bit less than that. And maybe they're using different filters now, different systems in the car. Again, but you know, based on my VIN, it could be that I just have a different model of that.
Well, here's one I'm going to throw out to anybody who's got an early VIN car like Eric. If you've changed your filters by now, which I suspect anybody going past 2 years has probably done, have you noticed an improvement? Like, have you driven through smelly areas where suddenly the odors disappear? That'd be a fascinating thing to learn, to see if there is a difference with the new filters being supplied.
FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled FEYNLAB, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla. We were meant for each other. I'll be curious to find out too, because my car comes up on a year in September. So, and most of the people that I've talked to seems to be anywhere from year to I don't know 18 months or so. It starts to be a problem. So hopefully I don't have a problem, but you never know. So basically that covered. Was there anything else that we wanted to talk about from the financial call that was interesting?
Not from the call, at least not for me.
Yeah. Well, there was one thing, and I think we have to address it. Should I
talk about my Tesla service experience first?
Yeah. I don't know. Do we want to talk about something positive or negative?
Maybe we want to end on that note.
By and large, it wasn't bad. All right, so I'll dive into this. So about this time a week ago, I was my battery was low, and again, because most of us now are not charging and driving the way we used to, I went ahead and got into my car late night last Wednesday, and I said, let me see if I can go to a nearby charging station, a destination charger, to get at least a quicker charge than charging here at home. And I get in my car, I depress the brake pedal, and all of a sudden the car just goes schizo. Like lights flicker, that you hear clicking of the car trying to do something, and then all of a sudden everything just kind of goes dark. The fog lamps were flickering like crazy. Screen unresponsive. Windows wouldn't go down, like nothing. Car just dead. And my immediate reaction, knowing from other owners, or like our friend Michael and many others, my immediate reaction was, I think the 12 volt is dead. Now, I had no warning on the 15-inch display. There was no indication that the battery was in fact low or dead. I had driven the car, I think, for about a day, maybe a day and a half. And when I drove it before that, again, no indication the 12 volt had been low. So I'm calling Tesla roadside assistance, and they say we can send a tow truck out there. But here's the thing, though. Under normal circumstances, if the COVID-19 pandemic had not been going on, I could have had a tow truck come to where my residence is, and they could have put the car on the flatbed and take it to Tesla service. However, because of the pandemic, it is actually not safe. They're being advised to not do that. Now, if I'd been on say, an interstate highway or the turnpike, then they would have gladly gone out to my location, picked me up, and then, or at least taken the car up, I should say, and then take it to Tesla service for a morning appointment. That didn't happen in my case. So they said, well, since you're at home, we can't do anything until the morning. Now, the thing was, because the car lost power, the driver's side windshield couldn't go down or up. But the problem is, it was up just enough where if I closed the door, a tiny, tiny sliver of it was hitting the chrome trim on the driver's side. So next thing you know, I'm like, here I am, like now shoving the window down with my weight to try to not crack it, but also just get it low enough where I can kind of get it in, and it did. So thankfully, I was able to close the car and seal it, but I couldn't also lock the car because, again, no power. So I wake up the next morning. I think I slept like 3-4 hours this night because I was up for a while. I get up in the morning, and I knew the tow truck was coming between 8 and 9 a.m. And taking it directly to Tesla service. So I wake up. I figure the tow truck guy is about to approach. He gets here. I go to the car. And all of a sudden, the car is showing up on my app as available, and you can see the data in the car. I was like, well, that's good. I have at least some residual charge. The battery somehow overnight just decided to wake up. So I was able to at least put enough, there's enough energy in the car so I can actually back it out. So we could actually load it onto the flatbed and take it away. So that was a saver. Saved the guy time to have to like jump the battery basically and be able to move the car. So Tesla service gets the vehicle. I get a call, and about an hour and a half later from when they left my residence, Tesla service says, we have your vehicle here. We're taking a look at it now. Based on the vehicle's reports and the software, it looks like it is a 12 volt, which is what I suspected it was. They said if we able to switch it out, we should be able to get it done later today, but we'll just kind of check everything out. So it was around like 10:30 in the morning when I got that call. About 4 or 5 hours later, I hadn't heard anything, so I asked for an update. And then next thing you know, I was able to get the car around 4 o'clock from Tesla. So they were able to at least get it switched out. Car came back totally fine. They had at least checked the tire pressure. They're not washing cars anymore, so it wasn't clean by all means. But I was able to get it back, and I've had no issues since then. So we've heard these stories before, where all of a sudden, like the car's dead. I was fortunate that I was able to at least open the door, sit in the cabin, and then push when all that stuff happened. But I know people who go out to the car and they can't even get in. So I was pretty lucky with that. But thankfully, Tesla knew about the issue. They were able to get it fixed. And I had my car back in, less than 12 hours time from when it first happened. Or, well, I should say when they took it, it was definitely less than 8 hours. But at least when it first got reported to when it was fixed, it was less than a day's time.
So was it a touchless service type of situation?
Yeah. So the tow truck guy was basically like not masked. I was like, okay, great. But I walked out to him with mask, gave him the key card. He put it in his shirt pocket, had the vehicle loaded up, and then he just drove it out. Tesla calls me when I go get the car. They said, we're going to leave your car parked out front, unlocked, key card inside the cup holder insert. And then from that, you can just take it and go. So there was no paperwork. I had no receipts. I had nothing. It was just grab the car and left. So I live, 10, 12 minutes away from where the service center was.
Yeah, you're lucky
so,
that way.
Yeah, so I didn't have to go very far to get it.
Cool. So overall, good experience.
Overall, good experience. I know some people have much more
inconvenient. But
it's inconvenient, but again, if there was ever a time for that to happen, it's now when I'm not having to drive to work every single day. But I can imagine for a lot of folks who are either not close to a service center or do have to commute because they're an essential worker or whatever the reasons are, it was just surprising that it just happened. I mean, I've had the car now for, it was 2 years this week. I took delivery, today's the 29th when we're taping. I took delivery 2 years ago on the 27th. Totally forgot. Time is such a weird thing right now.
Well, that's the thing. In lockdown, I lose complete track of time. Yeah. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what day is it? Even I asked Bev today, what day is it today? I had no idea.
Yeah, so essentially almost 2 years from when I got my car, the battery just went kaput. But at least I'd rather the 12 volt than the battery.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Oh, no yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of funny because even in today's day, we're still getting reports of 12 volt batteries dying.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised in a lot of ways they still haven't 100% licked this problem.
The suspicion was by two people I talked with. One is that, and this is actually coming from when I spoke with some service people from roadside assistance. They said in some cases, if you live in an area where you're not charging your car, if your car's not plugged in and you're getting OTAs, that could be causing a problem because you're essentially using the battery to wake up the car, and it's awake the whole time while you're getting the download, and it's not really getting a charge. So you're essentially draining the 12 volt, not the battery pack in those cases. How true that is, I don't know, but that's what the suspicion is. I know that from reports we've gathered, Tesla is working on trying to, they already now make it that there's at least an alert on your screen should it come to that. But I had no warning whatsoever before it just died. It just died. It wasn't until the next morning I got in the car and I'm able to put it in drive to move it for the tow truck that it's like, hey, your 12 volt battery's like, yes, I know now. It didn't tell me before that. I think it'd also be great is if they can push that alert to your phone. If there's some way to do that, not just seeing it on your screen. That would be a helpful update. Yeah. But again, when that comes to pass, it's not a rush. I think that would be very helpful too if you're seeing it from your phone first.
Well, our friend Michael Bodner got Elon's attention a few weeks ago and asked about the possibility of having some kind of early warning system for the 12-volt battery. So apparently that's supposed to be coming. When, we don't know yet, but that's apparently in the works. Eric, your car's not plugged in all the time like Ian's or mine is, right?
Correct.
Because you're around the corner or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, sitting there. Do you leave Sentry mode on?
I don't have Sentry mode activated.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I try to be conservative with it. I'm still leaving it at 80 or maybe sometimes 90% SOC. I'm hoping to drive more frequently, just so I'm using the car a bit more to sort of get the battery pack and then 12 volt to sort of work in tandem. I want to be able to charge it more frequently, so I just have to kind of build habits. It gives me an incentive to leave the house, but also making sure that I wear PPE, that I bring ways of cleaning my hands once I'm grabbing a charging cable. Things like that. But it's my intention to just kind of be more proactive now instead of just sitting at home for a week straight to really use the car. It's there. I might as well. I'm paying insurance on it and paying a payment. Might as well drive it around for a while.
Yeah, I've actually set my my SOC level to 50%. It's been like that.
I saw that you guys were dropping it down to 50, 60 in some cases.
Well, I'm not driving, so you know.
Yeah, I'm using the gospel according to Kyle, man. I'm leaving it between 40 and 50 all of the time now. And the only drag about that is you don't get quite the same performance out of the car.
Oh, I know.
It's pretty damn quick still, but it doesn't have that violent.
It's noticeable. On a performance Model 3, it's very noticeable.
How much would you say you're getting, Ian? I mean, if you were saying you were doing, let's say your 0 to 60 was 3.4. How much lower would you say now? Like 3.7, 3.8? Like, what are you looking at?
No, it would be in the mid fours, I think.
Really?
When you reach, 50%. Yeah, it would drop into the fours, which is still lightning fast. But I mean, you're spoiled and you're used to having the skin ripped off your cheeks. It's not quite the same.
Okay. Yeah, I agree 100%. There's quite a bit of difference between a Performance 3 at 90 plus SOC and a Performance at 50% SOC. Big difference.
Yeah.
So you're getting more of a jump than a massive jolt.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's still plenty fun to drive. I mean, this is hashtag first world problem all the way.
Yeah.
But it's the only thing. It's like I always have this weird fear now that if I go out at 40%, it's like, oh no, what if that guy in the 5-liter Mustang shows up at the light? It's gonna be close, man. I have fear of 5.0 now.
You feel like Marty McFly in Back to the Future Part 3 and just drive the car in reverse while he goes forward.
That's it, exactly. Yeah.
It's so funny because we went out for we had to do a drop off for something. I think it was some flowers for somebody, porch drop off tonight. Anyways, and I was driving home on the highway, and this guy, he came right up behind me. And he was tailgating me like 2 feet away. And I was looking like, what the hell is he driving? It's like a Toyota Yaris. And I'm like, seriously? You're going to challenge a Tesla, let alone a Performance 3 in your crappy little Yaris? Like, I was waving at the guy like, back off. He got real mad.
Yeah.
And then he was still tailgating me. So I put the blinker on and I was on autopilot. Started moving over to the other lane. There was a truck beside me and stuff. So then it did this whole swerve thing and got out of the way. Well, that spooked the guy. He really backed off at that point. He thought, well, he's really messing with me. But then he kind of tailgated me all the way into town. And at one point, he stopped at a light and I was right behind him. I'm just being calm. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to road rage this guy, even though I think he's a douche. But he started the light went green and I could see him. He's looking at me in his rearview mirror. He's like, okay, I'm going to mess with you. I'm going to stay here. And I just creep up behind him. He finally took off, but you could tell he was just like, he was itching to mess with me. I don't think he knew what he was messing with, but whatever.
Clearly not.
No, but oh well. You always get those types. But seriously, you're going to mess with this car?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people don't know.
No, it's true. Ever so often you'll catch somebody else and they're like, "Whoa, okay."
It's a Yaris. Come on.
I mean, you know what?
Any car could beat a Yaris.
But I will say this though: when it comes to smart car, could a smart car beat a Yaris?
Electric one, probably.
The electric one, yeah. The electric ones are quick,
and that's the point I was going to get to, which is electric cars. No matter what the maker is, no matter how much battery it has, no matter what, electric cars by and large have greater performance because it's just instant torque. Just go.
Yeah. An i3 would beat that car.
Hell, I mean, our Volt. I smoke people off the line with the Volt all the time. They're like, "What? That's this strange little doorstop thing."
They'll catch up to you maybe half a mile down the road, but at a dead start, see ya.
Correct. Exactly.
I don't race the racers and stuff, but I thought it was kind of funny that a Yaris decided to be a bit of a goof this evening.
Just imagine how much more difficult it would be if you had drag races like that where they're all electric. You wouldn't hear them.
No, that's true.
You'd have to be there to see them. Like most muscle cars, that they modify for racing, it's just loud noise pollution machines. But imagine electric cars, some guy's like ready, and he just hits it, and he's like, you don't hear anything. That'd be great.
No, we'll reach some point in the future. That's what, going to the drag races is going to be just whee. It's like, okay. What's funny is when
you hear people in the stands instead of actually the cars.
Yeah, the crowd will be louder. That was actually one of my things with Formula E. It's like, oh my God, it's going to be so boring without the sound. But the Formula E cars, because I guess they have these direct cut gears or whatever, they're actually quite cool sounding. I was very impressed with how exciting they sound in real life, and they don't blow your eardrums out like an F1 car does. They actually sound kind of cool. So that's one form of electric racing that I was pleasantly surprised how exciting they were, not just to watch, but to listen to.
Well, thinking of that the cars in September will have to have the noise boxes moving forward here in the US, then arguably if Elon says, the ability to add sounds later, that's just having the sound of a car that just revs up and you're like,
That is a feature we're still looking forward to.
You could do that too.
You could.
Yeah. It's not the same. It's not the same, I know, but at least it'd be something.
Yeah, I'd go for like something completely out of like Millennium Falcon sounds or something. I'd just completely nuts.
It's funny though because most of the challenges that I get in my area are pickup truck guys. A guy pulls up in a great big lifted 150 beside you, and I'm like, all right, buddy.
A lot of these diesels, when you uncork them and you take all the limiters off them, they can make like 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. I've seen some of them seriously move off the line, and they have a lot of the same torque characteristics as an EV, right? It's all bottom end, like on the highway you drop them like a bad hat. But watch those things off the line; they can be speedy.
Yeah.
Oh well, it is what it is. I don't see it very often, but it does happen. So.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So anything else newsworthy today?
I don't know. I couldn't.
Elon couldn't help himself. Nutbag, what are you doing? You never do this.
If you guys are listening to the podcast, you'll have to watch the YouTube video. There's been some fun things happening in the background in Trevor's office.
Sorry, my cat's decided to come and visit. He never does it. I mean, he usually comes to visit, but he's on the ground. But this time he wanted to be cuddled, so watch the YouTube video. Get a good look at my cat. All right. I don't know. Elon couldn't help himself on the financial call today. He took to Twitter. What was it yesterday?
This morning.
America Now.
This morning, like early this morning.
Yeah, in the wee hours of the morning.
Really? You know what? Elon's a smart guy, but I'll be honest with you. When it comes to this, I'm sorry, but, and this is just my opinion here, so everybody can disagree if you want to. That's perfectly fine. But I'm sorry, but a financial call for a company that you're trying to run is not your soapbox. It's not the time and a place to be talking about lifting restrictions. I mean, he did say, it's basically forcible imprisonment and people should be free to do what they want and stuff. Yeah, I agree with that. in principle, but we have bigger fish to fry right now, and I don't think it's appropriate for him to do it on the financial call. I mean, he's a billionaire. If he wants to talk and have a soapbox, buy a TV ad, but don't do it in a financial call.
Or continue it on Twitter. I mean, Twitter for him is his.
Yeah, take it to Twitter, but don't do it on a financial call.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Cringy.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting hearing the call, the comments themselves warrant a separate discussion. I'm just focusing more on the tenor of his answer. Mm-hmm. We talked about it before, so I'll at least present my idea. If you ever listen to these financial calls, which you should, ideally from any company that you find you support or maybe don't support, it's always good to hear financial calls. It's good that they're public record for most of these companies. When you hear this call, there's something that happens all the time. So we can listen to it, but we're not folks that have like a special number that we dial in to essentially get on a list to ask questions. When you do call in, you essentially present your name and you ask your question in advance. They vet the questions as they go through, sort of basically signing off on who is going to be able to have their question asked directly to Elon or anyone else that's on the call with them, or who essentially says, we're not going to take that question today. Thank you so much. Just be listening in for today. So the questioner, who is, from my understanding as a layperson or media person, it's not an actual like a true investor of the company, had asked the question that led to the response that Elon had. And it essentially was to talk about his thoughts on the shutdown, the pandemic, the stay-at-home orders, that sort of thing. So that only happens if somebody, and I don't want to certainly make any assumptions, but somebody had to have signed off on that. If someone asked this question, let that question come through. So one could assume that was Elon's sign-off, since it is his company, it's his call. But again, I don't want to make that assumption that it was for certain him. That being said, question comes through, he has his response. Now, to me, it wasn't what he said was on its own merit problematic, right? It was the tone and the tenor used that I found more problematic than what he said, because he's cursing on that question. He's using terms, and you could tell the fervor in his voice when he's answering it. That to me shows that the level of aggression he has about the pandemic, the response that's been taken, how it maybe affects him both personally and professionally. Certainly, you could tell that's all kind of built up. This is a major problem. We talked amongst ourselves before the show. I mean, I think the three of us are in large consensus about what we think about our government's handling of this and what we think we need to do moving forward. That's a different show, a different discussion that we'll take off air. But I think that most people could hear that and say, even if you agree with what he's saying, which I'm sure there are a number of people who do around the world, and that's not this discussion, how he went about saying it, and just the pure just belly of anger is what I think is a problem. To your point, Trevor, like this is not the time and place to do that. If you wanted to simply say, I've had my comments, I've taken to social media for that, I'll continue with those there, I don't want to use that here. He could have done that. He could have deflected, deferred, whatever. He chose to answer it, and he did it in a way that, honestly, when I was hearing it live, I was like, wow, that's pretty brazen. So,
yeah, very, very well said, Eric. I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, obviously, we're all following, his feed, and we're kind of wondering, wow, where is he going with this? And I could see that, throughout the day, he attempted to fill in a little bit what his position is about this, and he got a little bit more nuanced. I just wish he'd sort of started with that and kept that sort of nuanced tone. It's like, we shouldn't necessarily look at this just through one lens. There's a bunch of different ways to handle it, and that's a lot of people I think would have listened and would have been very open to the idea. But like the coming out guns blazing like this was like, wow, no, I don't think that's how you're going to get people to listen to you on this or gain sympathy for your position on it. That's about all I could say. It's like, the guy is capable of some very deep and very interesting thought on looking outside the box is what this guy does, and that's what I really like about him. And I wish he sort of gone a little bit softer on it so that we could all have a debate and go, yeah, well, maybe there's a few different ways we can look at this thing,
I wonder too, like, was he throughout the course of the day getting so much feedback thrown his direction, whether it be through media inquiries, whether it be through the Twitter feeds or people commenting, whatever it was, that he had this in his head, like, I want to respond to all of that groundswell of either resentment or support. And he elected to use the call as a forum to do that. I don't know. Maybe, I mean, that's certainly one of the faster ways to get your message out, because we know obviously it's going to be a news item with Tesla's call today. I think the tactfulness of it was misguided. I know that I am one of those people who publicly clamored him to sort of subside, like put the phone down for a bit, maybe take a backseat on this for a bit, especially on a day like today where we want to highlight Tesla's successes. I think this sort of took the air out of the room a bit.
It did, yeah. Absolutely.
And I don't know. I mean, look, again, the merits of his argument, Ian, like you said, that's a different discussion. We can certainly debate that. I don't want to make the show into that. I just felt like if he had said it in a calm way, said, I sort of disagree with it. I hope we can return to normalcy very soon. I'd like to see Tesla resume normal activities. We have employees we want to make sure are taken care of, yada, yada, yada. I would have been okay with that. That would have been fine. It's understandable. And like you said, his initial tweets said one thing, but then and that lacked context. When you go back and then clarify, if he had just done that from the beginning, I don't think the blowback would have been as great as it was today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, 100%. But then again, if he had just said something reasonable from the outset, it might not have had any impact. Maybe he was going for impact. Shoot first, ask questions later seemed to be the approach here. So you got that. But it's
he's definitely a passionate guy, but there are times when he needs to turn that filter on, I think.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with him expressing his opinions on social media and stuff, but my problem with it is that that's the wrong venue to be expressing that stuff.
Well,
it's company focus. It's like you're talking about earnings here. It's not your personal opinion about what's going on with the world and stuff. I mean, if it relates to your company in terms of protecting people, that's fine. Mention it, but he never mentioned anything about that.
And I think to your point, Trevor, a lot of people associate Elon is equivalent to Tesla and vice versa, when to me, it couldn't be further from the truth. As much as we want to think that Jeff Bezos is Amazon, he just owns it. It's not like it's the embodiment of who he is as a person, right? No different than any other company that we know where, if any one of us are entrepreneurs and owned our business, Fast EVs is not 100% representative of what Ian is and vice versa. Ian as an individual can say what he'd like with freedom, understanding that those are separate from what his business is. But Ian's, of course, Canadian, which means he'll never do anything bad anyway because he's a really good guy.
Not that anybody will ever find out about.
Right, you have like some hairless cat hiding around somewhere that you're gonna start petting when the show's over.
He's right over there.
Very right. But I think the larger thing is a lot of people equate the two as being equal, and they're not. When we talk about what Tesla's missions is, it's not Elon's personal agenda. He'd like to see that accomplished for sure, but it's just one of the various entities that he helped sort of navigate into the 21st century. SpaceX, the same thing. Like SpaceX to me is the successes they've had are not solely on Elon's back. It's on the scientists, the rocket engineers. It's everyone. It's the whole entire pie. It's not just a slice of it. So he's certainly critical to their successes, but he's far and away not the only primary reason why they are where they are.
Right. Well, I don't think we need to discuss it anymore. We've said our piece and stuff. We just thought it was a little bit awkward, and we had to address the elephant in the room. Hey, speaking of SpaceX, and then we're a little less than a month away from the DM2 mission.
Yeah.
Right? So really looking forward to that. I mean, boy, I'm staying up for that one, no matter what the time is and stuff. So that's going to be... So maybe we'll do a podcast that week, maybe all about that. It'll be very interesting to talk about the DM2 mission, because I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping to, not only just SpaceX, but NASA really pulls off a really stellar webcast on this thing. Given the COVID situation, they're not going to be having any gatherings of press and stuff, so hopefully they'll really pull off a really nice live stream of this whole thing, because everybody's cheering this on. This is the first time, America is going to be launching astronauts from American spacecraft and not having to rely on the Russians anymore. So this is going to be...
Go America! Go America!
So I'm really looking forward to that. So anyways, maybe we'll do a podcast on that. That's what I think that's what we'll do.
Is. And I was watching Apollo 13 this past weekend, and Space Camp with which, by the way, if you've never seen Space Camp, the movie itself is corny in its own right, because like you don't put kids in the shuttle on the launch pad and all of a sudden like launch them in space. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, of course.
Max, so that stuff doesn't happen. But like, to me, like, I get so excited at the thought of human exploration being back on American soil. I mean, it's amazing when you tell people about like, we're, the International Space Station, yada, but like, we haven't been to the moon. We haven't set foot on the moon since the 70s. Like, before I was born, we haven't been to the moon. And it's just amazing that we've had all these probes and we've had just gorgeous missions like Cassini and Juno and so many. We're trying to land like stuff on asteroids. Like, we're doing all kinds of cool stuff in interstellar space, but there's so much about our close-knit solar system we're not really taking advantage of. And so it's great if we can get back to the point of having human exploration for long space trips, going to the moon, going to Mars, that sort of thing. Because LEO, low Earth orbit, is fantastic. But we're it's almost like when you're saying, I'm going to go on vacation, and you decide to go to the park 5 miles away and camp there for a weekend. Like, go on vacation, go away, travel to a different country. Which, by the way, Canada, I'm hoping to see you this summer. I don't know if it's going to happen. We'll see if the borders open up. But I'd love to be able to see you guys in Canada.
Sometimes, I talk to my wife sometimes, it's almost like, God, is summer going to be canceled this year? It's just not looking so good.
Well, we've had
record
record temperatures here in Florida. We know summer is alive and well. Whether or not we can do anything about it, that's one thing. But it's alive and well.
Yeah, because there's so many things. I mean, we're supposed to be, this weekend is our 10th anniversary. We're supposed to be on our cruise.
Yeah.
But instead, I mean, we have to do what we have to do here at home.
But hey, you know what? Happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you. So we have lots of things planned that we're going to do, and we have dinner at home and stuff, and we just make do with what we have. And then if things relax by the summer, maybe in the fall, we'll do a trip then and stuff. But anyway, certainly no shortage of ideas of things that we can do once this whole thing is lifted and things are relatively back to somewhat of some form of normalcy. So
can I ask you guys a quick question? If you're listening to the podcast, you'll have to watch this on YouTube, but can you explain your shirts?
Oh, good point. Yes. So these shirts, by the way, that Ian and I are wearing, let me just get into the frame here. So if you're listening to the podcast, I'm sorry, you can't see what we're talking about. These shirts were made by a good friend of ours up here named Aaron Brighton. Thank you, Aaron, for the shirts. They're dye sublimated shirts, and these are all photographs of the car during their lightning run that Ian and I did at the beginning of March across Canada. And even on the map, on the back, it has the map of the supercharger. I can't show you.
We kind of see it. We kind of see it.
Turn around, Ian.
Yeah, let me do the full wrap around.
Right. Yeah, a little bit.
As his chair blocks away. There you go.
There you go. So there's a map of all the superchargers, the 40 superchargers we hit across country. So anyways, it's just chock full of different images and stuff. It's just kind of fun. Right here in the one, because right here in Manitoba, we were at the geographical center of Canada, where we stopped and took some
sign we almost missed.
Yes. It was like, hey, what was that? Do a Yui. That's the sign. We're supposed to go back.
Have you counted the number of photos on your shirts?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't counted them.
We haven't done that. No, we should.
There you go.
Yeah, took a lot of pictures.
You could always cheat and just ask Aaron how many he made in the design, but
sure enough.
Yeah.
So anyway, special shout out to Aaron. A very nice, well thought out gift. He sent a very nice letter and stuff. So thank you very much. So I guess that brings us to the end of the show. Ian, why don't you tell people where they can reach you and whatever the heck you want to plug, man?
Let's go with my Twitter handle, which is at Ian Pavelko. Easy enough. And PMs are open. So if you have any questions about anything, certainly happy to help anytime I can. On the Tesla Owners Online forum, you can find me under the handle Mad Hungarian. I don't spend as much time on the forum as I'd like to these days, especially just because of the situation our company's in. I've been cranking it out overtime, just trying to keep up for all the staff that we're missing at the moment. So I apologize if I'm not as present. But like I said, do the Beetlejuice thing, Mad Hungarian, Mad Hungarian, Mad Hungarian 3 times. By that time, if you tag me at some point, I'll get a little message and someone will get a hold of me, and I'll be glad to step in and help with anything I can, wheels and tires or anything else obscure, maybe to do with the chassis. Glad to answer any questions there. And finally, if you're looking, speaking of t-shirts, if you're looking for any kind of Tesla related wear, there's always the Evolve wear that you can find at teespring.com. Mad Hungarian's Evolve wear is the shop name at Teespring, and that's always available. Portion of the proceeds always going to a good cause. So there you have it.
Great. Excellent. How about you, Eric? Where can people find you?
Well, first thing you mentioned Beetlejuice. Little do you know, there was actually a sequel written called Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, where the Dietz family made their way to Hawaii to build a resort. While they were there, they found out that the grounds were once are sitting on top of an ancient burial ground, and Beetlejuice had to come save the day. You can get factoids like that on a really cool podcast called Call Me Curious.
Yes.
So you can actually do that. Call Me Curious is my 10-minute podcast. If you haven't heard it or don't know what it is, it's just a very short podcast, a daily podcast, Monday through Friday. We're doing show 21 as of this Friday. So today, awesome. When recording is the 19th, we'll have 2 more shows this week. That makes 21. And it's just 10 factoids, just all kinds of 10 topics, random at best. I did an NFL draft one last week, which is totally awesome. So find yourself doing that. It's just 10 minutes. It's not like it's a murder podcast where you're committed to like 8 episodes to find out who the killer is. 10 minutes, you're in and out, you're done. Find that on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn. It's everywhere. Overcast, it's pretty much everywhere. So get that where your podcasts are not sold. Ding. You can also find me on Twitter. The handle is ECFix, ECFIX. And I just want to say, first and foremost, to everyone out there, whatever's happening in your world, whatever things are going to be, I really hope all the best for all of you. I know we get comments, positive and negative, every time we do a show. We're not always liked by everybody, and that's okay. Like Trevor's doing, hug your pets, hug your loved ones, talk to people, call a friend. Check in on people. This is a global issue. We're all in this together. So even if you have some unkind things to say to me, I still wish you all the best. I wish you good health. I wish you love and laughter and fulfillment. And hopefully we can all return to our normal activities so you can bash me on Twitter, whichever way you want to, and I won't feel bad about it. So
I thought you were going to say we could return to normal so we can bash me in person or something.
No, I don't advocate violence at all. Violence begets violence, and I have to get the authorities involved. There's police reports. I don't want to write things, and it's too much. It's just
want a
too much.
restraining order.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't want to have to. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to all of a sudden move. It's just it's too much. It's too much.
Okay.
So get in Trevor. Just get in Trevor's roaster and just hide somewhere. I don't want to do that.
Right. Well, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter. The handle is Tesla Owners Online. Don't forget to check out the forum at TeslaOwnersOnline.com. That's where you're going to find all the best discussions about Tesla. And my cat Nutmeg wants to say hello. You want to say goodnight? No, you want food, right? That's what you want.
And Nutmeg has his own Instagram channel.
That's right. Royal Highness Nutmeg on Instagram. There you go. All right, buddy. There you go. He's hungry. All right. Well, that's it for tonight, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys, and listening. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Or Reservoir.